Congress is currently negotiating the final version of the National Defense Authorization Act, which advocates for a controlled disclosure regarding the potential existence of materials and biologics with unknown or non-human origins to be signed by President Joe Biden. Biden is reportedly in support of the UAP legislation, according to an interview with ex-Watergate and Pentagon Papers lawyer Daniel Sheehan, who is the current president of the New Paradigm Institute, an organization advocating for the UAP Disclosure Act to pass in its current state. Sheehan said, quote, "The president has decided, along with Chuck Schumer, along with the overwhelming majority of Republicans and Democrats in both the House and the Senate, that this is the solution."
While fronting this new legislation, Senator Chuck Schumer's staff and others in the Senate have been in coordination with various quarters of the U.S. government, including the White House and its National Security Council, to create the language for the bill. Former F-18 pilot Ryan Graves is calling for more government transparency around UAPs.
Are you planning on holding Washington accountable when it comes to transparency and reporting back what they're finding?
We have to. We have to, because the American people are not going to just trust the conclusions of the government on this conversation. That doesn't mean that we have to spill the beans on our ways and means and our technology capabilities, but the government also doesn't have the right to classify reality.
But comedian Russel Brand has another theory on the UAP discourse and weighed in on reporting that his CIA office is collecting UFO crash sites.
Paradigm-shifting information, like there are extraterrestrials that have long been visiting Earth, that there are retrieved vehicles and dead bodies and presumably diplomatic relationships between human and extraterrestrial governments, ought to be changing our consciousness to an almost inconceivable degree. Yet it fits snugly within a recognizable paradigm. The information is controlled, the access to it is curtailed, the information is exploited for profit, used for military ends. That's business as usual, isn't it? Your taxpayer dollars are used for the retrieval and the operations, and then when it comes to the profit, it's handled by a private entity. Pretty much like the development of certain medications or other technology that we're all familiar with. When it comes to the funding, you pay for it. When it comes to the profit, they benefit.
So the implication being, or the argument being, that the reason that we're not being told about UFOs is because whether some aspect of the technology, et cetera, is being used for profit, and that profit, that the government doesn't want to have to share the proceeds of that.
Yeah, like Russell Brand says, that's totally plausible, and you can find other examples of that being the case. I also think, and I said before, the government prefers secrecy as just the way it operates and would be inclined to hide this, to hide whatever it has, even if what it has is very little, would still respond to these requests for more information and transparency in the same way. They don't want transparency because it exposes previous wrongdoing and causes and furthers distrust. Now, not showing us stuff also causes distrust, but they don't like to, reveal what's behind the curtain ever. So they would do that regardless of the situation. I support transparency always, and I want to know exactly what the government has. I want to be able to see it. I actually don't care if it exposes state secrets or if it exposes state technology. I don't care at all. I want the evidence of the existence of extraterrestrial life would be the most significant development, news story, science story ever on planet Earth. So they should absolutely disclose that if they have some indication of it. I don't believe, as I don't take credulously necessarily what I've heard, that there is that evidence, because it sounds like a lot of, well, I know someone who knows someone who knows that evidence exists, and we've not been able to see it firsthand, and I can't do anything with that, and frankly, I'm sick of that being the case.
Yeah, I mean, look, my only quibble with the Russell Brand theory here is that presumably we're talking about something public-facing. You said the technology that is public-facing, if it's profitable, right? The previous theories that we've been banding about usually have to do with they don't want to disclose they found this technology because maybe they're using it in a military context, which is still private-facing, or this isn't aliens at all, this is all military technology, and that's why they're continuing to keep it secret, because obviously they don't want it to get out into the rest of the world and ruin our competitive advantage. All of that, I think, makes sense as to why you would have secrecy. But the idea that there is some commercial use for extraterrestrial technology that the government is benefiting from, I would expect that if we haven't seen it already, we would, in due time, start to see some leap forward in technology, some evidence of this
maybe
competitive
mRNA
edge.
technology crashed on Earth from the meteor.
All right. Well, we've had mRNA technology for a long time before COVID even.
Well, that's because they traveled back in time to, it was the time travel technology they got.
All right. But also that is not like, I know you're joking, but even that technology is very much Earth-based, right? Figuring out how to use the mechanisms within every living cell to deliver, kind of gene splicing and create new material is not extraterrestrial. It is like the most earthly thing that you can imagine. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around, the new phones that fold in half. Is that what we're supposed to believe that that's, alien advancements? It's not like they're coming out with new carbon capture technology.
New alien vaccine. It actually stops the spread of COVID.
I mean, you're joking, but yes, you would expect to see something that's really a departure from the places where humans have clearly gotten stuck. Yeah. How do we find a replacement for fossil fuel? How do we suck carbon back out of the atmosphere?
How do we teleport ourselves?
Teleport. How do we figure out how to make that concrete that the Romans had that doesn't disintegrate over the course of a year? The big problems. Yeah. And so look, maybe this is still in the early stages. Maybe they're still trying to figure out how to market it to the public. Maybe that's what they've been doing since the 1950s or whenever Roswell was supposed to have happened. It's possible. And I definitely think that Russell Brand's on the right track insofar as pointing out that there are these ways in which it's, we are made to pay as consumers for government research that we also paid for, and private companies then turn around and benefit from. I think that that's all a really good point. I just don't know that that's what I think is responsible for the secrecy around UAPs, to the extent that there is actually secrecy around UAPs and just not a nothing burger.
Right. I think it's bureaucratic secrecy. I think it's the government's habit is secrecy. We see it applied in all sorts of cases. I can get less abstract here. I have filed, colleagues of mine have filed, journalists, I'm sure you experienced this at The Intercept, we've experienced it at The Reason. FOIA requests for information, for documents, always come with a level, they make it as difficult as possible, no matter what the government agency is, local, state, federal. They redact things that they don't need to redact. The way they arrange it is an employee, you have to pay them for their time. So sometimes you have to pay for these requests, and even if it's like it would take you 5 seconds to just send me this file. Like, no, we got to print every page individually. We got to go inspect the records. Like, the way it is structured is to be maximally painful for you, the person seeking information. That is why. This is not some abstract view I have, but from actually going through the records requesting process and how painful it is time and time again. And I've done it in Michigan. I've done it in Arizona when I at the very beginning of my journalist career, I sought some records of Arizona universities for those kinds of things. My colleagues at Reason have done it with law enforcement and police records over and over again. It is hard. It is deliberately, brutally hard, and that's why I say that about government secrecy.
I hear that. I definitely hear that as well. Now, I don't want to skip over this allegation that a CIA office has collected materials from multiple UFO crash sites. Now, grain of salt. The Daily Mail, which I thought was from Superman, but never mind. The Daily Mail is reported.
What is it? It's the Daily Planet.
The Daily Planet. Excuse me. My apologies.
Yes.
That's not my particular kind of geekdom.
I'm Marvel, not DC.
But they've reported that at least 9 such non-human craft have been collected by the agency in top secret operations. They say that they were directly briefed by people who were involved in these retrieval missions. One of them said that the U.S. intelligence agency has a system that can, quote, discern UFOs that are cloaked. And when such vehicles land on Earth, special military units are sent to try to salvage the wreckage. So that was part of this argument that's being made by Russell Brand and others. Again, I am very curious to hear more directly from the people who say that they have observed this material. I'd be interested to know how they came to have access to that information. Are these people who are whistleblowers from within the CIA? And what evidence can they maybe potentially provide that substantiates these perhaps whistleblower claims?
Yeah, I know. We'll see. we'll be waiting for more.
We might see.
We might see. We probably won't. We're going to keep talking about it. I know, like people who are more involved in the UAP discourse and are more believe there's more there, and we just don't know about it. They'll often, tag us on Twitter and other social media sites to, express dissatisfaction that we're not more serious about this. And I want to look. I am absolutely willing to believe. I really am. I do believe. It's more than belief. I know the government keeps secrets from us, and maybe this is one of the things they're keeping secret. But we need. I want the disclosure so we can know. But and it would be huge. It's not that I don't care. I would care more than any other news story has ever mattered ever. But we need to see that information first.
There's a universe where a revelation about alien life is actually incredibly pedestrian. One of my favorite sci-fi shows is Alien Nation, which is like a cop buddy show where one of the cops is an alien and one of the cops is a human because aliens just came and integrated into society and it's just not that big of a deal. And so I similarly agree that I'm very open to aliens existing. I'm sorry, I'm an evidence-based person, and I would like to see some of the people who have so much to say off the record say a couple of things on the record going forward. All right, stick around. We're rising for you right after this.